Welcome to another episode of Suburban Bourbon. This is episode 6 of season 1, and today we're at Gandalf's.
Yeah, we're here in Valley City. We're gonna not only learn about their outstanding menu, we're gonna try some cocktails and hear all that Gandalf's has to offer.
And you'll notice today we have our Ohio State gear on because today Ohio State's playing Michigan State. So hopefully by the time this airs, we'll be happy Buckeye fans, but who knows? So after today, after we have some cocktails, we'll be actually watching the Buckeyes game. And again, we're at Gandalf's at 6757 Center Road, which is Route 303 in Valley City. Yep. So we want to introduce Phil, who's with us today from Gandalf's, and Phil's going to be our guide today, walking us through some bourbons and some of their cocktails, and in particular one that's sort of named after the pub.
So we have the Gandalf Royal Flush instead, or the Gandalf Royal. We're going to be doing that. And instead of our traditional Crown Royal, we're going to possibly switch it up. We're going to be up to you, gentlemen, what we decide to do. And we're also going to do an old fashioned. We're going to do traditional style, not the usual muddling and all that stuff with a simple syrup. We're going to go true old stuff. And then also we're pushing a spiked apple cider, which we're going to pick out a good bourbon to go as well. It's one of the things we promote here, especially this time of year, being colder. Who doesn't love a good apple cider, especially spiked, any time of the day.
Outstanding. I think we had talked about the Weller Antique, the Buffalo Trace.
Yep.
Buffalo Trace.
And I think you're going to do you have to do the Royal with the Royal Gandalf.
We have to stick with the straight Crown if we're going to stick with the Crown.
I think
I switch up the flavor.
Yeah, I think we have to try it as it's meant to.
That's
because
right.
I've definitely had, that's one of my favorites when I come here. So we will veer a little bit off the road.
So whatever you guys like to start, you just tell me when, and I'll make it happen.
Well, so one of the things we've always said on our podcast is, Joe and I don't profess to be experts in bourbon. Right. We profess to be fans of bourbon.
Right.
And our saying has been, if you have a great bottle of bourbon, do with it what you want. There's no rule that you can't mix it with something. Right. You're not. Some people may frown upon that, but hey, you bought it. Do with it what you want. You want to mix it. You want to drink it. You want to do it neat on the rocks. Have at it. That's the great thing about bourbon because it's so versatile. And our journey with this has just been trying to learn about different pubs and bars and restaurants. Some that are super fancy. Some that are focused on music. Yep. Just to say, hey, look, there are a lot of places here in Northeast Ohio to go and enjoy yourself and have a good cocktail.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, in looking at the bar here, the bourbon selection you guys have is definitely much beyond a lot of restaurants and bars so that's one of the things that we also like to highlight is, especially being bourbon fans, having a place that you can go to get Blanton's as one example. It's super. It's becoming more and more rare to find, and it's one of it's my favorite. So it's definitely one that we seek out.
Yeah, and when we have it, man, we burn right through it. That's for sure. But it's fantastic. The complexity of that drink itself is just like you said. You can do anything with a bourbon, and Blanton's is one of those ones. As long as a lot of the other ones that are coming out and being a little more popular, as you see. You can go anywhere from drinking it neat all the way to an old fashioned if you want. Or to something even more complex than that if you want. Smoke Manhattan, if you will.
And the funny part too is you brought up old fashioned, and almost every podcast we've had an old fashioned. And the reason is it's a classic. But the great part about it is it's not like we've had the same drink every time. It's different every time because the way that the bartender, whatever bourbon you choose and the way the bartender makes it definitely creates a variety of it. So it's definitely one of our favorites, and we always like to experiment to see what's your version here at Gandalf's versus everyone else. It's
been a great emergence of drinks too, of cocktails. It's amazing. Yes, old fashions, even done differently at every place. Sazeracs, sidecars, all these drinks that probably went dormant for 40 years, 50 years, right? Suddenly, are becoming popular again.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and the old-fashioned, like you said, is just a go-to universal thing. But as you said, everyone makes it different. Different proportions, different style. Like I said earlier, some people muddle, the simple with the orange and like the maraschino. Here, I'm gonna do true old school, like the straight sugar, orange bitters. I'm gonna have just a Luxor cherry as a garnish and not melted at all, and just a little actually orange zest. Many people just, box pour it back and forth, hand it to you with a splash of water. And I'm not saying anything bad about that. It's just to each their own. Everyone has their different tastes. Yeah, everyone has their own style.
We've come across a lot of the smoked old fashions too, which are lots of fun, and almost it did prompt me to go on Amazon later on. I bought my own little kit, with the flame, and it is really good.
To be fair, by later on, it was 4 minutes after we had the drink.
Yeah, we were still at the bar, and I was on Amazon. Thank you, Amazon.
The smoke was still in the air, and it was purchased.
If Amazon would like to sponsor this podcast,
exactly.
we'd be more than
Foghat.
That's actually, you said that because I was just talking to one of our servers about that not an hour ago about one of my favorite drinks I used to make. I talked about this even in my interview, was a smoked old fashioned and a smoked Manhattan. Doing this straight. So what we did is at my old restaurant, we'd have an 18-ounce carafe with the lid on it. We do the cedar chips, smoke it with, I usually use Maker's 22, a little bit of the bitters, and then just a little bit of the Luxor cherry juice, just a couple dabs. You smoke that, swirl it on for 30 seconds, present it at table on a single rock ball. Just the presentation itself is phenomenal, and they sell. It's just a great sell, and the old-fashioned, the way that cedar chips, or if you want to switch up and get a different kind of chips.
Yeah, I've seen,
So get some like the cherry, I don't know if you ever did some cherry chips. Use some of that, and gosh, the complexities it'll bring out of something, the most simple thing. You can do it with a Jack Daniels, and it'll make Jack taste like you've never tasted before.
And I'll say this, I mean, both our wives are not bourbon fans.
Right.
You make it, but a smoked old fashioned, they both like.
Right.
And it's because that the flavors coming out of that are different. It changes that drink altogether, but it's one of our favorites for sure.
Joe, you're exactly right. You and I have talked. It's not even about having a very, you learn that there are good bartenders out there who know what they're doing, right? And it's not about making a drink strong. It's about making a drink flavorful. That's the whole. Otherwise, you just order a shot,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, that's what I think. Something we've learned in the bitters. We realize we have to up our bitters game after last week's podcast.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Not all bitters are made equal.
That's right. All right, so we're back, and Phil's going to make us an old-fashioned. We're going to do that with the Weller Antique 107.
All right, so like we said, we're gonna do the old fashioned here. So we're gonna do this a little bit different than how most bartenders do it. Some do it with the muddling of the simple syrup, orange, and the maraschino cherry. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna do just a scoop of sugar in each one. And do around 3/4 to an ounce of water each.
So do you like doing it that way instead of simple syrup?
Yes, I mean simple syrup, honestly, in a speed go, like if we're busy, 5 or 6 dashes of orange bitters. Bartender's different. If it's speed goes, it's easier, which is simple syrup, orange, cherry, muddle, throw your rocks in, your whiskey, splash of water, box pour, hand. It's a lot simpler, a lot easier, and honestly, it tastes good. It really is. I mean, to each their own. The traditional way of style doing this is I just kind of want to go true historian. Old-fashioned dates all the way back to 1806, as we know, where it's just simple bitters, sugar, water, whiskey. Very simple man's drink. Why shake that up?
We're going purist.
Yes, sir. So at that point, you guys have decided to do the Weller 107.
Yes.
So we're going to do that guy, which honestly is I think going to breathe really nicely. We're just going to do 2 ounces of that guy. For that, we're just going to take our bar spoon. Stir. Just got to give it a few things just to get that whiskey mixed in with that sugar and just let it breathe a little bit. After that goes, I just do an orange zest to squeeze.
And that's one thing too that I think is real important is getting the actual, squeezing that orange, getting that flavor in there. You don't always see that. And quite honestly, that's definitely part of it that gives you that extra flavor that matters in this drink.
Exactly. And like I said earlier, most people use maraschino cherries. We do the Luxor cherries here, which I feel give it a little bit of a twist. Yeah, you have to. Like we talked about the smoke old fashions and all that. The Luxor cherries with any of that you have to do, whether it's a smoked Manhattan, smoked thing. The Luxor cherries, anything in my personal opinion, are way better cocktail-wise than maraschino. I think the maraschinos is just kind of like that. It's more inexpensive, it's way sweeter, and for a person that's trying to get used to their palate to whiskey, that extra sweetness a lot of times will help them transition into the whiskey world rather than like having to develop like, oh, it's supposed to burn like that type of thing.
All
All right, let's give these a try. Cheers. And by the way, I can't think of anything better on a Saturday, having an old-fashioned and watching the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Go Bucks.
Right? Go Bucks.
OH.
I-O.
And they're playing against Michigan today, right?
Michigan State. Michigan State.
Yeah.
That's a different taste. So, with this old fashioned, I taste more of the bourbon than we have in other old fashions. but it's not overwhelming.
Oh no, this is still well-balanced drink. And I think I'm a big fan of the Weller, so it's that flavor. It's got a little bit of spice to it, but it's you get the flavor of the citrus, with the zest. Quite honestly, this is a great old fashioned.
We've had some old fashions too. I mean, and again, it depends on the on the place, the pub.
Right.
We've had some that use the juice from the Luxardo cherries. We have some that use the old fashioned. We had one that I saw one that was made with agave juice, which is interesting. So I guess it really just depends. I like this because, as you just described, it's sort of the original way to make it.
Yeah, but as you guys said, you're going to taste a little more with the bourbon in that back, and then obviously a Weller 107 being a stronger than normal go-to bourbons that you're going to use. But that's why earlier we were talking about smoked. Man, the flavors that could be brought out with that. I think that's the next step for this guy. That's the next advance in that.
So the way I smoke, the way I smoke mine, because it's the way the smoker came, is the smoke drops in after the drink's made.
Really? So are you using a board when you smoke it?
It's a little, it's called top hat because it looks like
Fog
a top
hat.
hat, or fog hat rather.
Fog hat.
And you put the little chips here, you light it, and then the smoke just descends. And I do it when the drink's already made.
Really?
So the only downside to it is you can't do it with if you have a large ice cube, round ice, because it just won't fit. But if you do it just so the line is here, let the smoke settle into the drink, and then I put the ice in, it actually is really good. I've seen it the opposite, where there's a piece of wood, smoke it, put the glass on top of it, then do the drink. So you're basically coating the glass with it.
Essentially,
That's what you're doing. You're putting a film of layer, if you will, on a little char, if you will, on the inside of the glass for the smoking. And that's a great way to do, I feel like, for Manhattans especially.
Yes.
That is a great way. If you want a good Manhattan and maybe you're just new to Manhattans and you're just a little skeptical, or maybe you just don't like the strongness of it, I highly recommend that method of smoking glass with a board. My personal favorite, though, is if you can get a capped carafe. It could be a 16 ounce or 22 ounce. They're roughly $7 or $8 on Amazon. They're not that expensive. This spot also sponsored by Amazon.
if you make
Drink whatever cocktail it is, neat style, in your carafe. Smoke it for approximately 5 to 10 seconds. Really fill up that glass to the point where you can almost barely not see the other side. Swirl that drink around for approximately 30 seconds and then pour it into your glass with rocks in it, or however you want to present it, whether it's a Manhattan thing.
And you usually do that with straight bourbon or
Straight bourbons, yeah. So if I'm going to do a whiskey with that, I'm going to use my Makers, my Buffalo, or maybe a little Basil Hayden's if I really want a strong kick to the teeth, Yeah.
We're big fans of Basil. I mean, the whole Basil product, which is a Beam product,
Right.
is probably one of the smoothest. And I think I was mentioning to you off air about the Basil Hayden toast,
Right.
which,
Right now.
oh my
It's
gosh,
amazing.
so smooth. And I think that'll be another good drink that you can mix with, but it's also smooth because it's only 80 proof.
Right.
It's good to sip.
I mean, and then you've got Basil Hayden Rye, which
Yes.
the 10-year is outstanding. Especially if you like ryes, that's one of those that's very smooth. And then the Caribbean.
Oh my God, the Caribbean that he's mentioning is limited, right? It was a limited.
Yes.
It had, if you look at Basil, you look at the various labels. One is a dark red, is the rye. This was blue, like a royal blue.
Really?
And it was made in rum cask.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it had a little hint of a rummy taste. It was really,
Really?
really sweet and smooth.
Okay.
All right, so next we're going to talk with Phil about another drink. Joe, you've had this before.
Exactly, the Royal Gandalf, which quite honestly, when we talk about having, whether it's a brunch, whether it's dinner, doesn't matter. This is one of those drinks that it's fantastic any time of day. And we're going to have Phil tell us what's in it. And there's a little bit of a twist this time.
A fall twist, if you will, with apple crown. But go ahead.
Exactly.
Right.
So obviously right now with it being fall, Christmas time, all that good, favorite time of the season, everyone likes that apple cider apple thing. So we're going to keep that thing. We'll start off with the old fashioned. We're slowly working towards that Christmassy feel, which we're going to end at the cider. So instead of using our usual Crown, which is what we do with our Royal Gandalf, we do Crown Royal, peach schnapps, cranberry juice, shaken, strained over rocks, garnished with orange slice. Traditional, it's everyone's favorite. When it comes to a cocktail, everyone knows a Royal Flush. We just took a little twist on it. But today, as we're doing the theme with the apple cider, we're going to do the Crown Apple, give it a little change up, a little sweetness out. As you said, you've had many Royal Flushes here, Royal Gandalfs. So let's switch it up.
Exactly. This is going to be a new twist on it. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to love it.
Let's do it.
So we're going to start with our Crown Apple. Do about 3 ounces of that guy. Our peach schnapps, Only the finest.
Phil's making 2 drinks, by the way. So his 3 ounce pour, his 3 ounce
Exactly.
pour is actually a 6 ounce
Bon
pour.
appetit.
We're not going for a monster drink.
For purposes when the owner watches this, yes,
Exactly.
we're doing 2 drinks.
So we're gonna add our cranberry juice, which we're gonna do about 1.5 ounces of cranberry for each one. And once that's done,
Thank you for clarifying.
just gonna put that up into some rocks. Just give it a few shakes, get that ice to chill just a little bit. And then we're gonna strain these boys out. Okay. At that point, garnish with an orange. Just a couple straws. Make it feel fancy. All right, and enjoy this, gentlemen.
All right. Good stuff.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's give it a try.
All right. Roll Gandalf. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh God. Yeah, that's it.
This is literally
It is a
brunch.
bunch drink. You could have 100 of these.
exactly. So, quite honestly, I know Pete, who introduced me to Gandalf's, Pete and Marty. This is the drink that, whether it's brunch, but especially brunch,
Right.
I am not going to have a mimosa. I'm not going to have a Bloody Mary. That's the call right there.
Right.
And they definitely, it's an easy drinker. And again, I mean, when we talk about flavors, I mean, this is the whole point of cocktails, right? Great flavors. And the Crown Royal Apple puts a little bit of a twist to it that I haven't had before.
how's
So
that
it's
compared
definitely,
to the normal Rogan that you have.
it's interesting. It's like, it's a subtle difference. So it's not markedly different, but I can definitely taste a little bit of apple, which gives a different flavor to it. But it's still one of those drinks that, especially in the summertime when you're sitting on the patio here, you know, early Sunday morning, it's a drink that you're going to come back to.
And interesting too, I think Crown, we'll have to check this, but I think Crown falls in the same category as some of the other flavored, like Beam has a lot of flavored products, you know,
Yes.
Beam vanilla, Beam honey, all those sorts of things. So technically they're not bourbon, but they're flavored whiskey. Isn't that I think what we learned?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like Maker's Mark. One of our favorites is we were down on the Bourbon Trail. We went to Maker's Mark during the bourbon tour, and they had a mint julep Maker's Mark.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you right now,
with the green wax instead of the red wax on the top.
So because of that, it's not officially a bourbon because they actually made the drink, and that's what you had.
Bourbons
But-
aren't flavored.
Yeah, but that flavor is one of the great. You just drink that on ice, and it's as good as
so
any
good.
mint julep you'll ever have. Quite honestly,
It's really good.
They skip the steps for you. Just like, here's what you guys are gonna want to have. We just made it for you, essentially.
All right, so our next drink, and by the way, that last one was delicious. Joe is absolutely right. We could drink about 100 of those. The next drink we're going to do is a twist on some apple cider because it is fall, and we're going to do it with Buffalo Trace.
yeah. So what do we have in store for us?
So, like we talked about with the theme with the apple and also the time of the year, it seems like everyone goes for when it gets cold out, the hot toddy, the apple cider, the spiked apple cider. It's a simple drink. I mean, it's just cider and whatever liquor you choose. You know, it's kind of like apple or hot toddy.
And yours is a homemade apple cider.
We make ours fresh every morning. We're not going to say how we switch it up and how our recipe is. It's super top secret. Off camera, I'll show you guys. It's fine. So yeah, we do our own special recipe on the apple cider twist. Make it fresh every morning. So what we'll do is we'll add our Buffalo Trace, about 1.5 ounces of that guy to that. Garnish with an orange. Simple. Can't beat it though.
What is the drink of choice normally with this drink? We're choosing bourbon because we are Suburban Bourbon. But what is the norm?
Honestly, it's to each their own. If you're a whiskey drinker, a spiked apple cider is going to be right up there in your alley. Me personally, I'll either go for a cinnamon whiskey, like a Fireball, or if I want to switch up my liquors completely, I'll do our caramel Smirnoff vodka with that. I sold dozens of those just in the last week, and it's that time of year. You hear salted caramel and, pumpkin spice, people can just go crazy for it, just hearing the name. Oh yeah, we'll do that. So now they hear cider, because they come in, it's cold, and they want something to warm them up. And why not have a little bit of shot in it? Helps to get a little bit more warm. So my personal favorite, though, is going to be the Smirnoff Vodka Caramel. With that, I do a little caramel drizzle on the inside of the glass, and just the whole presentation itself comes out phenomenal.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, let's go with Buffalo Trace today and see how that tastes.
That being said, we're going to try
We're bourbon
Buffalo
guys.
Trace.
We got to go with bourbon.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to do the Buffalo Trace, of course, first. We're just going to add this guy. And like I said, a cider, you just can't go wrong with a spiked cider anytime. It doesn't even have to be cold. I mean, you don't really need a reason to have a cider. Summertime, honestly, I'm a big fan of those. Cider at the end of the day. I'm just gonna do that. And we're gonna come over here. I'm just gonna ladle in this. Now, all of our ingredients we keep in the cider. A lot of people strain out the cider. We keep our orange peels, our cinnamon sticks, our anise, everything, our clove, like everything we add to our recipe is all just gonna be still right here. That way it gives time and slowly cook. So marinate all those good juices. Now, if you guys are having hot apple cider at home and spiking it, what is your go-to bourbon that you're gonna choose for it?
I would probably say, I mean, Buffalo Trace is a good choice. I mean, I have a lot of flavored beef products at home.
I could see the Beam. I think isn't there a Beam cinnamon?
Yeah, I believe there is,
Yeah.
but I gotta admit, like we talk about Basil Hayden, that's another one that
Yeah,
also
it's
there.
a good
Or I
answer.
might, this is a situation too where a good rye gives you that spice that I think might add to it. So, but in this case, Buffalo.
Awesome.
All right,
Let's give it a try.
All right.
Well, to be honest, how could it really be bad?
Right. Exactly. I mean, you're drinking hot apple cider, now you just have a little spike to it.
This is awesome.
We're literally a week away from Thanksgiving. This is one of the greatest
Oh my
things
gosh,
I've ever
absolutely.
had. This is fall personified right here. All right, we're back here at Gandalf's. We have the owner of Gandalf's, Sean Lackey.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you for having us today.
Thanks for being
Yes.
here.
For the audience, what is the address again here at Gandalf's?
We are at 6757 Center Road in Valley City, Ohio. Valley City, not Valley View. Valley City. There's no Cinemark. There's no dome with golf balls or a Quaker State. No, it's Valley City. So we're west of Brunswick, south of Columbia Station. If you hear gunfire and cows mooing, you're in Valley City.
But you're actually not too far because this is actually 303,
Exactly.
and which dumps right onto 71. You're really not that far from 71 from here. Yeah.
It's a little bit different than up north, and the war is over, so they don't, the South. It's okay. 82, Route 82 is not the Mason-Dixon line. You can cross over, but it's different. Up north, every street is named after a tree. There's maple, there's oak, there's whatever. Everything down here is a route number. It's 303 to 52 to 252 to 82 to 161 over to, it's a little different, but it's fun.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Gandalf's and how you started this great restaurant and bar?
Well, I grew up in Rocky River, Lakewood, and I met a country girl, and we ended up moving down here to Valley City because when she started her F-250 diesel in the morning and woke up neighborhoods all over Bay Village, we decided, you know what, let's go somewhere where there's a little bit less neighbors and feel a little bit at home. But we moved out here 15 years ago, and this place was another establishment. We used to come up here all the time. We lived 2 minutes away. And that place ended up going somewhere else, and it was wide open. And we're like, why don't we give it a shot?
How'd you come up with the name?
My dog's name is Gandalf.
Wow.
And we named him after, of course, Gandalf the Wizard. So we have Gandalf the Wizard instead. So
Outstanding.
yeah, it's good. My wife and I, Michelle, came up with it, opened up the place. We decided we want to have a place that has made from scratch sauces, dressings, quality food. We don't want garbage. We want good stuff that people want to go out and pay for. And we see people with their kids and their grandparents, and it's like, let's feed them good stuff. Just like we like to have good bourbons and things like that you guys can appreciate.
Sean, what was your strategy, I guess, over the last, since March 2020 till now? I mean, you're still here. Some places aren't so lucky. I mean, what was your philosophy? How did you approach it all?
Well, instead of closing down, I think you had to adapt. And they basically They did shut us down, basically. They basically said you can't have tables and everything else. So like, okay, so how do we fix this? How do we, we got online servicing, online ordering, and it made it more convenient for people to pick up. We decided to space the chairs and tables out so that people were comfortable. And it really helped having a patio that you could fit 70 people out there. We spread the tables out. We put a tent in the back that we could have more additional tables. And I wanted to keep everybody working. I mean, that's the bottom line. I want to keep us open. I think if you close, you got a good chance of not opening back up. So when places were cutting down their hours, we were expanding. I thought, well, this is an opportunity. Let's show people what we can do and keep our people working. And that's what I always wanted to do.
And one of the things you brought up is that patio. And quite honestly, like the summertime, you do a lot of live music and a lot of, and it's a great place, whether it's brunch, happy hour, and you name it. So talk a little bit about that and what that has meant to this business.
It's huge.
And when we opened up a place, I said to myself, I want to have a place that has live entertainment. I'm an entertainer. I like to entertain. But nothing better than going out and hearing a band or hearing some really talented musicians, something that doesn't drown you out, somewhere you can talk and still have a conversation, but it's in the background, and they're really good musicians. I mean, nothing beats that. On a summer night, the beautiful night out, and you're having a good time, having a few cocktails and having a good dinner, and I enjoy that. That's what we enjoy.
Well, and I think too, the other sort of aspect of it, you've come back and you're open, which sounds pretty obvious, right? We're kind of hopefully waning down with COVID. Joe and I talk. We still go to places or try to find places on the weekends. They close at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, if you're trying to get people back, you got to be open past, dinner time. And I was looking online. I think you were told you were open till midnight on the weekends, especially. Right. I think 11 during the week, but still, ready to serve, right? Ready to serve drinks and food and everything else.
Yeah, I know. I think COVID has scared a lot of people from going out. They don't go out as late as they used to. I think nothing good happens after midnight anyways. I don't like being out.
Sure.
And I don't want to go home at 4 o'clock in the morning. But I want to be available. I don't want to cut back our hours because, like you said, a lot of people are on different schedules. Some people like to eat at 5, some people like to eat at 9. So I'm not going to change that. I want to be open and still available for them.
So what about your menu? And talk to us about kind of like the inspiration behind some of the things you've put on it.
Right. So when we decided to do this, Michelle and I, we said we got to have the best, and we decided to go out there and get an executive chef that was trained properly, that had great experience.
It's tough these days, right?
It's very tough to hire people,
Yeah.
And we also had a passion for food like we did. And we found somebody 6.5. We're going to be open. This will be 7 years in this coming St. Patrick's Day. He's been with us 6 years and 11 months.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
That's awesome. Congrats.
But his name is Ed West. He's our partner in this, and he's got a passion for food, and he loves to make food, and he loves to make it from scratch and present good things. So, like our shepherd's pie is his grandmother's recipe from Ireland. So my parents are from Ireland, and hearing that, I'm like, let's try it. So we'll do stuff like that they're inspired from either a family dish, but we're out in the country, so it's meat and potatoes. It's comfort food, and beef from Mayberry. You know what I mean? So we got to have. That's the kind of food people want. They don't want fancy plates with gels on it. They want food. They want beef and they want potatoes.
Yeah.
And for people watching, and Sean is right. I mean, it's certainly Gandalf's is a bit in the outskirts. It's not that country though. I mean, you are close to 71, not that far down the road. So anyone who would want to visit from, I guess if you call Cleveland has a central area, but central south, the Royalton area,
let's name it Olmsted Falls.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah,
15
not far
minutes.
at all.
It takes you longer to get to Westlake than it does to get to here.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're going to go to Crocker Park, go to Gandalf's, because quite honestly, it's a shorter drive, and it's better food and better drinks and better experience. So that's the part that I think people forget, just because you're going out.
No, you're right. You're right. And so Sean, tell us. So if I'm a family, two groups. I mean, you have the people who are just going to go out and have a nice time, adults, some drinks, but then you have families too who want to go out for a nice evening. Right. Tell us why they should come to Gandalf's.
Well, I think number one, it has to do with the food. We're trying to give a little bit of something for everybody, but what we're feeding the kids is quality ingredients, stuff it's not It's not processed, and I think that's important right now. The kids are inundated with processed cheeses, processed everything, cereal even. But I like to make stuff from scratch, and again, you're feeding your family, feed the kids good stuff, and that's what our philosophy. I see my nephews come in here, and my friends, the brand new babies come in here, and I want them to make sure that they have the best stuff, and we're a family atmosphere. Our staff is family. The music is not blaring. You can concentrate. There's not crazy people, doing crazy stuff. So we want that atmosphere too.
It's funny you say that too, because I know when I've been here and you've had live music, what I've always appreciated is the live music is there, it's present, but it doesn't overwhelm. Because I can say this, like I've gone to another restaurants and bars, and where I like live music, if I'm having dinner with friends and just having a relaxing night, I don't always want it right in my ear. And I think you guys do a fantastic job on the patio of like, it's present, it's there, but it doesn't overwhelm the entire experience. So
yeah, I appreciate that, and that's what we want. We want people to, you walk in with a family. You want to be able to talk to your kids, catch up on things. Maybe you haven't talked to them the whole week. Maybe you can't sit down at the table at home, which a lot of people can't do because there's activities and everyone's on different schedules. And so we want it so that people can act like a family when they come in.
So Sean, tell us, and you've been here 7 years, you said, or
7 years is coming St. Patrick's Day.
Wow. So tell us what you've seen with bourbon over probably the last 7 years. Because you're probably the person who orders it and sees right. the sales of bourbon. What's been your experience with it in terms of it being a popular spirit?
I think people have really educated themselves on bourbons, especially because they're right here. They're in Kentucky. We get a lot of the best bourbons from Kentucky. And I think people are kind of tired of going out and ordering foreign. Not that it's wrong or anything wrong with that, but I think having a local, something pretty close to us with that kind of quality that's world renowned. They got the Bourbon Run, the Bourbon Trail. People have gone down and experienced that. They come back, they learn a little bit of knowledge about it, and they want to try different things. And I'm the same way. I wasn't really a bourbon drinker at all before when I first started this, but now I've learned to appreciate it a lot more. All the different types of bourbons, and they're about sipping, they're about tasting, not chugging. So when you learn a lot more about it, and it's really something fun to enjoy. And like I said, it's something it's American, and you can't beat that.
It's funny you say that too, because my first experience with drinking bourbon was Blanton's on ice, and a buddy of mine introduced it to me. Andy Pachota, shout out to you, introduced it to me, and it was the game changer because it's about sipping it, it's about enjoying it, and that's the thing. What we love about bourbon is that's one brand, one flavor, and there's so many and so many varieties. But it has been amazing to see how it's expanded from where it was even probably 7 years ago to where it is today. I mean, now it's definitely in vogue, but just how much is out there is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really is, we love discovering new types of bourbons too. People come in and say, "Hey, have you gotten this? It's a really good bourbon." I'll try to find it, but it's tough to find a lot of the stuff right now. You go to a grocery store, most of the liquor that we have to buy, we have to go to a grocery store to buy it, and a lot of them don't have the stuff that we need all the time, and it's a little frustrating. But we know when we get it, it's going to be gone pretty quickly. And it goes hand in hand with serving quality food. You got to have quality drink, and people, they don't even bat an eye how much it costs, and I don't gouge people. I charge definitely a fair price, but it makes me happy to know that people come in here to try to get those because they know we have them.
I also appreciate that, and I noticed this, Stroh's beer. My parents personally kept them in business for 30 years.
Nothing beats a good old
fire brewed out of Detroit City.
It reminds me of my first communion. I had my first beer, and it was Stroh's. Me and my cousin got hammered. We got in so much trouble. We split the beer, one beer. We were in so much trouble. But I'm like, you know what? That left a mark, so I'm going to carry that from now on.
You have to. That's fantastic. And then there's also another business that you've been in Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I did improv. I studied improv at the Second City, and I learned a lot of learned about life. Definitely learning about improv. Improv was learning how to act and be around people in the arts and creative people. They speak first and they think about it afterwards, and as opposed to being in a CPA firm and they think about it first, and then when it's safe, then they open their mouth. So it was a different switching gears for me, and it was a great change of pace. And so I learned to do improv and act, and I got involved with Flanagan's Wake. I'm a producer at Playhouse Square of Flanagan's Wake, and when COVID goes away, hopefully one day, come on, I'll bring it back down to Playhouse Square for our 12th season. But also I'm a filmmaker. I made a movie called The Yank with Fred Willard, Kevin Farley, Chris's brother, and Colin Meaney. And I want to make more movies. I want to bring more movies to Cleveland. We got a great, vital industry here, a community that with sound and film and production-wise, we got it all here. And people, the great thing about Cleveland too, is everyone wants to help. They want to be a part of it. It's not like L.A. or anywhere else where everyone's just like, come on, we'll pony it up. Out here, people are just willing to help because they want to see people their own succeed. And that's one of the things I found out when I filmed The Yank, is that everybody wanted to help. Even corporate, United Airlines, they were the nicest. They let me film in a plane. Hopkins Airport, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Greater Cleveland Film Commission is very helpful. They'll help you, help you rent something out, rent out a hall, provide security, site recommendations. The Ohio Film Credit. There's a film credit in Ohio. We bring jobs to Ohio that give you 35 cents on the dollar if it's an Ohio job. So when you got $1 million project, that's a pretty hefty amount. So that's why a lot of people are coming to Ohio and Cleveland to film. So I want to be a part of that. I love that whole dynamic, and it's fun to be part of a creative process like what you guys are doing.
Well, Sean, we can't thank you enough. Again, Gandalf's at 6757 Center Road,
6757 Center Road,
which is Route 303 for other folks. Right off of 71, right here in Valley City. What a great experience. We're going to end this off air to have some food and continue watching our Buckeyes, who are doing a great job against Michigan State. But what a great experience, and what a gracious host as well.
And we appreciate, Phil made, an outstanding, well-balanced old-fashioned.
He really did.
He went old school, which I always appreciate when someone takes it to its roots. We also had the Royal Gandalf, and we topped it off with that cider that honestly, mixed it with the Buffalo Trace, was a great way to top off any day. So
that's right.
But we appreciate the time, Sean.
Glad you enjoyed it. Phil's a great guy, great server, very talented bartender, and thank you so much for coming out and let me be a part of it. Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, guys.